All right, here's a question for you. What do a British soccer team and financial independence have in common? Turns out, a lot more than you think. Welcome back to The Fi Guys. I'm Chris, here with Dominic, and today we're diving into the surprising wisdom of Ted Lasso.
Exactly, Chris. Ted Lasso is more than just a feel-good show. It's packed with lessons on life, resiliency, and growth. Things that are particularly important to the journey of financial freedom. So today, we're sharing some of Ted's best quotes and how they can keep you motivated and moving forward.
So, whether you're chasing financial independence or just love a good pep talk, this episode's got something for you. Let's jump into the top lessons from Coach Lasso.
This is The Fi Guys. Let's hit the pitch. That is a very strong mustache you got there, my friend. What's the reason behind the look? I mean, is it a complete, what are we talking? Midlife crisis? You want to upgrade? Holidays are here. You want to look even better than you already do? What's the deal here?
Well, Dominic, you know that I'm just a pillar of joy and happiness. So what I'm trying to do is channel my inner Ted Lasso in order to really do that. And I thought the best way to do that, to really encompass the character, is to look just like him. So if you're not watching on YouTube, you just listen only, go ahead and check us out on YouTube. I have a nice strong stash. I got my sweater vest on. In addition to that, I've even done a nice comb over in order to really exemplify the lessons of Ted Lasso here today on the podcast. And my plan is to do this the whole week.
I love it. I love it. It might be, dare I even say, maybe we carry it over into the new year. I don't know. That's up to you. But listen, I wouldn't be mad if you did. I would not be mad. I could grow a mustache like that. Let me tell you, I would, and it would look terrible. Not on you, my friend. Alrighty. So I'm curious. I've never seen the show. I've seen clips of the show. And if you're watching this video, maybe you've watched the show. Chris loves this show. You've watched it multiple times. You've told me a lot of great things about the show. And today we're going to be talking a little bit how it can really translate into financial freedom, financial independence, and our goal to reach our, financial dreams. So I'm excited to dive right in, or hit the pitch, I guess, as the script says. I guess, what does that mean, by the way?
So yeah, I didn't know that before. I'm not a soccer guy, and like when I heard about the show first, I'm like, soccer, like that's not my thing. I American football, like jiu-jitsu, wrestling, that's my thing. So, yeah. But when I watched it, yeah. So the pitch is the field. That's what the British people call it. So that's what we called it. But the reason I really want to do this, I know it's a little bit different than what we normally do. Normally we talk about financial independence, and of course we're going to talk about that. But in case our audience doesn't know, Season 3 ended the show of Ted Lasso, and they said they weren't bringing it back. But new information confirms that they're going to start shooting Season 4 in London starting January 6th. So just in a few weeks, they're going to shoot another season. So I'm super excited. I hope they don't mess it up, but I have all the faith in the world that they're going to do it. But the reason I wanted to talk about this is because Ted Lasso came into the world at a time that I think it was really needed. Not only the world, but also into my life. So Ted Lasso, the first season dropped in 2020. And I think we can all remember what that was like. We were all hunkered down at home, confused, hoarding our toilet paper and hoping that our milk didn't spoil.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate.
And, there was so much negativity in the world, so much fear, so much concern. And when this first season of Ted Lasso dropped, it was like a collective sigh of relief, a feeling like everything's going to be okay. Because the show, while it may deal with some pretty heavy subjects in a bunch of the seasons, it always leaves on a message of hope. And when I went through my bouts of depression and anxiety, watching Ted Lasso, unfortunately, over and over and over again, was something that really helped me get through some of those darker moments. Because in the show, he really talks a lot about, depression, anxiety, and some of the feelings that I was feeling. It was good and cathartic for me to be able to see that in another character, in Ted Lasso, and in some of the other characters, and to see that they made it through too. And when I've watched it again recently, because I watch it too often, I kind of saw that, hey, there's not only a resilience of this show to mental health towards getting through things, but also to the journey of financial independence, and the lessons from Ted Lasso, and more importantly, some of the quotes can resonate with ourselves and our audience's journey to financial independence.
I love that. I love it. And later on in the podcast, we're going to be going over some key quotes from the show, correct?
Yeah, that'd be my hope. So what I'd first like to do is just kind of talk over some of the wisdom that resonated with me on our journey to financial independence. Because what I find is both in the show and in financial independence itself and in our journey, we really need to find resilience. We need to maintain a positive outlook. We need to make value-driven choices in the face of challenges. And Ted Lasso's journey and his principles help us in that journey. And so we're going to go over some of the things we learned from that could help us. And we're going to go over some of the quotes that he uses that maybe we could remind ourselves of when we're going through it.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. You're kind of swinging me already to get Apple TV and lock in. You know, I've seen the clips. I've seen the funny moments. It looks exciting. And hopefully by the end of today's episode, I'm swung. I'm all the way in.
Perfect. Maybe by Five Friday feedback, you'll be telling me, Chris, I watched all the seasons. I haven't slept for a week.
I missed 3 days of work. It's great. The show's awesome. I got to find a new job, but I'm motivated now. I'm motivated to find an even better job.
Good. So what I'd like to do is first off, talk about some of the wisdom that I learned from the show, and then we'll get into the quotes. So the first thing that I've learned from Ted Lasso that I think really resonates with people like ourselves on the journey towards financial independence is mindset over circumstances. So I'd like to explain that a little bit more in that Ted Lasso's philosophy is all about seeing the good in people, staying optimistic, and finding lessons as setbacks. So, and I think that really aligns with our goal of resilience that is needed in financial independence. Because as we've talked about multiple times, sometimes the journey towards financial independence, in fact, not even sometimes, most times, the journey of financial independence, it's long and it comes with setbacks. And that's just part of it. You're going to experience negativity. You're going to experience things that don't go the right. But what I've learned from watching Ted Lasso and his attitudes, it reminds me that your mindset is more powerful than your circumstances.
I would agree with that. 100%. 100%. The mindset is always more important and more powerful than the circumstances that life throws you into. I like that. Okay.
Yeah. So in the show, you see a lot of times where Ted has, a lot of things, everyone's against him, and he just sits there and he takes it and he's happy. He realizes that, life can do whatever it's going to do to me, but the only thing I can control is how I react to it. So when I hear mindset over circumstances, the world's going to throw different things. The market's going to go up and down. Things are going to seem scary. People are going to be panicking. But you can be the calm in the storm if you don't let that stuff into you, if you just let it roll off your back. So that's the first thing, mindset over circumstances. The next lesson I learned from Ted Lasso that I think really works well with financial independence is focus on your long-term goals, not quick wins. And this one's pretty simple, right? I mean, it makes sense, but just like on the path to financial independence on our journey, Ted doesn't just focus on immediate victories in the show. He emphasizes the importance of growth, improvement, and looking at the bigger picture rather than just quick wins. And we just had a full recording with a systematic trader who talked about the exact same thing, because financial independence, being good with your money, requires patience, long-term planning, and sometimes, if not oftentimes, choosing to delay gratification over instant rewards.
Yeah, these are some great principles to start living by. Was he always this person, or did he have a traumatic event that kind of shaped his life, or how did he get to this point?
If I talked about that, I'd be spoiling the show for you. So I would definitely recommend that you go and watch it.
Gotcha.
But yeah, they kind of go through that. The show opens up with him being this Mr. Positive and like joy, happy. Which, this whole week as Ted Lasso myself with this very strong mustache, I'm going to try to live by, because I find my thoughts are quite negative majority of the time. So hopefully with this new mustache, I'll be able to envelop the right mindset.
I'm excited for this new version. Well, that's interesting. That's very interesting. I definitely want to skip to the end to see the whole story, but I gotta be here to enjoy the journey, I guess, as he said. And really, what was that one thing you got from the show? He said, think for the long term, build for the long term wins. Don't worry so much about the day-to-day wins.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly that. Sometimes you have to delay gratification over the instant rewards.
Mm-hmm.
Long-term goals, not quick wins. There's a lot of times in the show where everyone is yelling at Ted that he's making the wrong choices. He's making the wrong choices as a coach. He's a failure as a father, as a husband, and all these things. But he knows he's not playing their game. He's playing the game to win. And the best thing you can do sometimes is just one small step at a time. Because so many people think, I want to get to the end goal immediately. But the way you really win is just by staying in the game.
Yeah. No, I like that. That's so true. And it's funny because, we've had so many podcasts about day trading and investing and stuff. And it's like, it's not about getting the win, but it's about staying in the game, just like how he talks about. And it's so true. It's so true. It's so easy to get wiped out in finance if you're not careful. But building for that long-term goal and continuously, hitting progress over perfection is so important if you really want to get to that end game goal. And I'm starting to see the similarities between the
Yeah.
show and real life, investing and just, life in general, right?
It's kind of crazy right there. You actually just hit the third point when you mentioned it. I don't think you even knew that you mentioned it, but the third point is progress over perfection.
Oh,
Because
okay, let's go. Heck
Ted's,
yeah.
I know, because Ted's leadership, it shows that growth is all about incremental changes rather than expecting perfection immediately. And financial independence is very similar than that. So rather than expecting that you're going to hit your financial targets overnight, it's all about being consistent and being consistent with those improvements and small wins daily, decisions that align with your overall goal. Not just saying, I'm going to be financially independent, I'm going to be a millionaire, snap my fingers, it happened. Because we've seen what happens when people get that. We've seen what happens when people win the lottery. Just because your circumstances changes, it doesn't mean that your mindset changes. So we need to have that progress over perfection. Because if you were to reach perfection, which might be, for this instance, having $1 million, $2 billion, $3 million in the bank account, but you haven't made progress to get there, you're going to blow it. And we can look at so many instances of that happening.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I hate to say it. I love watching shows that kind of share my similar mindset. I don't know if that's good of me or bad of me, because I know sometimes you want challenging mindsets, challenging ideas and whatnot. But I love who he is so far. This is the type of person that I would like to be a friend with. I'd like to learn
Yep.
from someone who's positive, who doesn't get beaten down or gets beaten down and gets back up. And, it's just water off a duck's back, let it come. But at the end of the day, he knows himself, like Sun Tzu says, know thyself, right? He knows himself and he's not trying to prove anything to anybody. He is just him unapologetically. And I love that. That's kind of what I would describe as a real man, right? Someone who's able to take the challenges, the hate, the disagreements, and just, hey, this is the path I'm on. This is what I believe is right. My principles tell me that this is correct, and keep on going. I love that. I love that.
And the next point is going to make a lot of sense, especially for people on the journey of financial independence. But something I really took away from watching Ted is that he values people over money. And it's very clear when you watch the show, but Ted genuinely cares about his team and believes in the value of the relationships, which really mirrors the heart of financial independence if you're doing it correctly, in my belief. Because financial independence, it's rarely just about accumulating wealth. It's more about like freeing yourself and living authentically. Yes, the money is important, but the reason that we do this, because we ask every guest that comes on, what does financial independence mean to you? And no one has ever just given a specific number, because I think they've all realized that the number is important, but we need to focus on the people that you care about. You need to focus on spending time with people that matter to you. That's what everyone says when you ask them about financial independence. The money is important, but the money is just the great facilitator that allows me to live the life that I want. So what I saw in Ted is that he's valuing his team, he's valuing the relationships, he's valuing his family, his friends, the people he loves, and the money will take care of itself.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's needed in today's society. I think too often do we lust over money, and we forget about the people who got us there into those positions and who were there for us. And I think it's so important to, like he does, foster those relationships and care more about the people than the actual currency, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because at the end of the day, the money doesn't care about you, but the people, well, they might just.
It's tough. It's tough, and that's just kind of the way of life. And that people want it to be easy, and it just isn't. And that's why it's so hard for people, because you show up and you're like, hey, I hired a coach, or I did all these things, and why do I still have to put in the work? And it makes sense if you think about like fitness, because you never hired a personal trainer and been like, well, I didn't think I'd have to lift things. I didn't think I'd have to actually do stuff. Like I paid you money. Like, now you go work out for me.
Yeah.
But for some reason with finances, people think like, oh, like I'll just give it to somebody else and they'll deal with it. And that's just, it can never work that way. I know it has nothing to do with valuing people over money, but something you said there kind of triggered that thought in my head. So I'll move on to the next point.
Okay.
That watching Ted Lasso kind of showed me about the journey to financial independence. And that's embracing challenges as a growth opportunity. So Ted sees challenges more as a moment to grow. And just like in financial independence, this means that we have to embrace our budgets, or like we like to say, embrace a spending plan, build your skills, and overcome your setbacks. Rather than fearing the discomfort, Ted's resilience reminds us that challenges are part of growth. And those challenges are what leads to the person that we are going to become. Because if things were just too easy and we never had to grow, we were never challenged, we would stay stagnant. And as human beings, according to Jordan Peterson, and I definitely believe this, human beings are meant to walk uphill. We are meant to suffer. We are meant to strive, because that's how we feel that we've achieved things. That's the reason that if someone wins the lottery, I think nothing ever changes, because just because they have all the money, they're no longer having to grow. They're no longer having to do anything. Why do you think Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, is still doing so much? Because he wants to walk uphill. He wants to continue to work, to try hard.
Yeah, I absolutely love the growth mindset he's adopted in the show. And I'm kind of curious. You said this thing about fear, or at least I had a thought about fear. And in the show, since I haven't seen it, is there a moment where he's real? Like, obviously, he's getting tested all the time, right? But is there a moment where he's really, really tested, to where he's kind of scared to make a decision or make a move or do something? And kind of how does he overcome that?
Yeah. So there's actually a bunch of moments like that
Yeah.
where the fear gets to him, the anxiety, the trepidation, the concern, all of these things. And you get to really watch him go through that journey. And the way that he gets through it is by reaching out. And I think that's something that we can really learn. That obviously wasn't in the show notes. And that was such a good question, is reaching out for help. And, Ted Lasso, he's from the South, and he has a different thought when it comes to therapy and all that stuff. Like he looks at that negatively.
Yeah.
But when he comes to his moment of reckoning, and I can talk about this personally, that moment of reckoning where you're like, you finally realize, like, I can't keep doing this on my own. I can't keep suffering in silence and hoping that I can just muster my way through it through sheer willpower. So Ted invests in relationships, and that's what we need to do. We need to invest in relationships. We need to invest in coaches. We need to invest in therapists, people that can legitimately help us get through it. Because can you get through it alone? Yes, you can, but you don't have to do this journey alone. And that's the reason we talk on the podcast openly every time about bringing someone along for the journey, because it's so much easier to go with a friend. Because when you fall down, your friend is there to pick you up. And that's what Ted does in the show. So does that answer your question?
No, that does. That definitely answers my question. And it's not the answer I would have expected, that he, reaches out for help. Because, yeah, I mean, as men, we're kind of taught to just bottle it up and just suck it up, buttercup, deal with it. I remember oftentimes when I would be complaining as a kid, my mom would be like, well, you want me to call you a ambulance? Like, it's just like, it's not something that it's like, well, damn, okay, well, no, I'm not going to complain ever. Cool. I'll just suck it up. Thank you for that. And I definitely think, as a man, that's important to learn, right? I don't think it's our job as men to be complaining all the time, right? I believe we should be tough, but I also believe, like you were saying in the show, him coming from the South, kind of a negative connotation on therapy and emotions, maybe even. It's so important, right? It's just like eating or drinking, right? It's a necessary part of life. You have to express your emotions, and if you let them bottle up, you're gonna end up exploding on either yourself or the people who didn't deserve you to explode.
Mm-hmm.
So that's interesting. So reaching out, asking for help, from a trusted source, from a good trusted source, not just anybody. You know, that's good. Okay, that's good. That's actionable. I
Yeah.
can do that. I can do that.
Yeah. I think it's difficult, right? Because, when you're talking about like growing up, and we as men, and when we were children, we were raised by people who just kind of, they stuck to the ethos of like, men don't cry, men suck up their feelings. Like the only feelings that it's okay for a man to feel is basically rage and anger. Like those are the two things.
Yeah, pain and
And
victory. Yeah,
yeah, pain and victory. And that doesn't set you up to have like a very well-rounded life. I've lived that life. And I'll tell you, it's really not easy to be like that. But unfortunately, it's socially acceptable to be like that. But what I've watched from Ted, because he goes through that too, of I can only show happiness or anger. And he really just only like goes into the happiness. He doesn't really show anger, but just like you said, when he does show anger, he blows up at the wrong people, and he feels bad about that. So But then since he's only just showing happiness, he's suppressing all the other emotions. And we're all human beings. We all have all of those emotions in us. And it's kind of like watching Inside Out, right? You ever seen that movie, the Pixar
Yeah.
movie?
Yeah,
Like,
I've seen that.
you can't take all those other emotions, sadness, anxiety, all of joy, and just stick them in the closet. They need to have their time at the control panel. And when they're there, you need to be able to work through it with them and just know that you're going through those moments, and that's okay. But too often, there's a dichotomy of masculine and feminine, left, right, black, white, whatever you want to call those words. We fall too far to one side. So as men, as masculine men, we're this, we only feel angry, we only feel these things. Is that good? Yeah, sometimes that's good. But anything that is good for us when taken to an extreme is a detriment.
Mhm.
So if you feel like you're dealing with a detriment and whatever you're doing isn't serving you, try to pull back more to the middle, because the answer is always somewhere in the middle. The world is not black and white. It's all shades of gray.
That is perfectly said. Perfectly said. I would love to get on to the next one. That's all right with you.
Number 6, and our final one of the things that I've learned from Ted Lasso that helps us on the journey to financial independence is finding joy on the journey, not just the destination. So from watching the show, you'll see that Ted's journey shows us that joy doesn't lie in the end goal, but in the moments along the way that get you there. Similarly, in financial independence, it isn't only about reaching the specific number. It's about enjoying the freedom and the self-improvement that comes with each progressive step that we make towards our number to financial independence. Because the number is important, yes, that gives us the destination, but the destination isn't the goal. The journey is the goal. Wherever you are, there you are.
I also want to add, I think you kind of said something that kind of triggered a thought in my own head, where, like you're saying, it's not about the goal, it's about the journey. And I agree. And I would also say that it's about who you become in the end. It's like that is the goal. Like that famous public speaker, he once said, it's not about being worth $1 million, but it's about being able to be the type of person to be worth $1 million. And I like that. I've always appreciated that. And the journey is obviously the better part of the adventure. I've always had that. It's like the night before the trip, you get excited. The week before, the month before, you get excited, right? But I love who it turns you into. And I think that's one of the beautiful parts of going on a journey to get to a destination or a goal, for who it makes of you, right? And I think oftentimes we don't realize it, unless we're like looking back at old photos, you're like, oh wow, like I sucked back then. If you're having a negative thought, or maybe if you're nicer, you're like, wow, that haircut that I had that was really poofy about 30 podcasts back, that's horrible. Somebody should have told me that, right? Chris knows what I'm talking about. Chris knows what I had poofy.
I did say that.
Yeah, and he was right. It sucked. It's horrible. I can't let it happen again. No, but 100%. I love that. Finding joy in the journey is so important. We talked about it over the last like 4 or 5 podcasts about, if you're going to go on a journey, right, you're going to have a goal, right? You're going to have a plan of action. Make sure it's a plan of action that you can stick to, right? And if it's something that you can stick to, you're going to have to find enjoyment along the journey and grow along the journey, right? If your goal is to make 100,000, right? Tomorrow, you're not going to make 100,000, right? But maybe tomorrow you upgrade your skills and you start applying for new jobs, right? And it's about a journey. And I love that. I love a story that shows that it's better to be one with the journey than one with the destination.
Yeah, it's kind of like so many people think that the destination is the thing that's going to change me into the person that I want to become. But in truth, the journey is the thing that changes you, because you can't reach the destination. You can't become that next version of yourself just by reaching the destination. You have to go through the journey. The journey is the way. The obstacle is the way, if we're going to quote Marcus Aurelius. Like, that's the thing that gets you there. It's like when you hike, right? When you go hiking, I love to hike around here, and like you reach the top of the mountain, you're like, okay, like you get up there and you're like, man, when I get up there, it's going to be so great. And you finally get up to the top and you look around, you're like, wow, this is really nice. But is that it? Yeah. And you realize like, oh, maybe it's because the top of the mountain isn't the goal. The goal was enjoying the walk up.
Yeah. I love that. That's beautiful. That's super beautiful. I'm clipping that. That's getting clipped. That's going in a short or something. That's going on YouTube somewhere. I love that. And speaking of YouTube, while we're here, quick plug, quick promo. If you're watching or listening on any other platform other than YouTube, we happen to be also on YouTube. So if you're not watching on YouTube, head over to YouTube. You can see Chris. He's got a wonderful outfit. He's got the great mustache. The hair's looking handsome as ever. And yeah, we're also posting almost every day on YouTube. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. Got the Monday and Friday episodes with Wednesday in between, and then shorts going out in between there. But yeah, back to the podcast. If you're not already watching, make sure to like and follow, all that fun stuff. Share with a friend, give it a thumbs up, a like, a review, 5-star review if you're listening on Spotify and whatnot. But yes, and back to the Ted Lasso. I know, shameful plug, I know. But let's get back into the Ted Lasso episode.
Yeah. So first, what I'm going to do is I want to recap everything, and we're going to move on to some quotes that we can try to remind ourselves of as we go through the journey of financial independence. Because when we hit those setbacks, sometimes I think having those quotes, having those thoughts can help us get through those moments. So the things that I learned over watching Ted Lasso that I think really resonate with the financial independence community is, first off, mindset over circumstances. Number 2, focus on long-term goals, not quick wins. Number 3, progress over perfection. 4, value people over money. 5, embrace challenges as growth opportunities. And number 6, find joy in the journey, not the destination. So in essence, from what we learned here and what I've really learned in Ted Lasso is the show, Ted Lasso, really reminds us that the journey of financial independence isn't just the financial goals. It's about the mindset and the lifestyle shift that builds that resilience, that perspective, and that purpose-driven life that we're all seeking.
I love it. I mean, you're hitting it right on the nail. You're hitting it right on the nail. And I never saw that in the show, in the trailers, right? But if you can look past, the subscription from Apple Plus to get to watch the show, and actually dive deep really into the show, it sounds like something that it needs to be widely available. Everybody should watch the show, right? And really not just watch it for entertainment, but really soak it in and look deeper past the characters. And I like that.
Yeah, we'll call it required watching for the Fi Guys. So let's go ahead and move on to some of the quotes, because I think that's where the show really gets into it. And for Fi Friday feedback, what I was thinking we do, rather than doing the normal recap, because Ted Lasso teaches us so many lessons that I've learned, I actually learned a lot of leadership skills from watching Ted Lasso. So my thought for Fi Friday feedback is, rather than recapping the quotes and recapping the life lessons, let's talk about how some of these lessons can apply to leadership. Because regardless if you are a leader, if you're a manager, if you're a boss, you're a leader somewhere in your life, a leader in your household. If not that, you're a leader over your finances. So let's learn something from him, but let's get into the quotes if we can. So quote number 1 from Ted Lasso. If you've seen the show, you're going to know exactly where this comes from. You know what the happiest animal on earth is? It's a goldfish. It has a 10-second memory. Be a goldfish.
Interesting.
So the lesson that I get from that is you need to let go of your past mistakes. Just like a goldfish does. They mess up, they forget about it, they move on. Dwelling on your financial mishaps, your poor investments, your debt accumulation, it literally does nothing for you. So we should try to avoid those things, because we need to focus on the present and the future. We need to adopt a growth mindset. We need to avoid self-blaming, because living in the past has nothing but depression. Living in the future creates nothing but anxiety. All we can do is live right here, right now, because that is all we truly have.
Yeah. That's the truth. That's the truth right there. And that's coming from someone like even myself, right? I used to live in the past so much, running scenarios in my brain. I'm sure the listeners can understand and maybe even relate to that. And I remember one day, so you know what? I'm just not happy. It's just not serving me anymore. And I literally said it out loud into the mirror. I'm like, you know what? I'm done running scenarios in my head. I'm done living in the past. And every time I would, after that, I say, nope, stop. This is not who I am anymore. And over the course of a couple weeks, I destroyed that habit. And now I never look back. I've been called a golden retriever, never a goldfish, but golden retriever. I can't be mad about that. I'm a happy chipper guy, so I can't be mad about that. But 100% though, you make a mistake, move past it, Maybe try and fix your mistake and move past it, right? Don't sit on it. Don't sulk in your anger and your sadness. We've all done that. It's just not productive.
You know, you said that you've been related to a golden retriever, and not a goldfish, because, you know, the 10-second memory thing. But one thing that I love about dogs, and that the reason that I love my dogs and being around them, is that their presence.
Yeah.
They're not thinking about the past. They're not thinking about the time you yelled at them or the time they jumped on the counter or did something like that. They're not worried about the future. They're right here, right now, just like a goldfish. They might have screwed up. They might have destroyed whatever. Like, I get home and Cole will run into a door or smack something and break something with his tail. And he'll look at it for a second and then be like, back to like, I love this moment right now. Like, even if I'm like, you just broke a glass or you dropped something or whatever, he's just so happy. And same with all the other dogs. So, you know, maybe instead of being a goldfish, be a golden retriever. Like, just be present.
Yeah, I love that. I don't see why not. I don't see why not. You know, they're, like you said, they're happy, they're chipper, and they have literally not a care in the world. But I love it. I love them. I love them. So that was quote number 1.
Yeah, it's quote number 1. So when you feel yourself dwelling in your financial mistakes, when you feel you're like, I'm so dumb that I did these things, be a goldfish. 10-second memory. Let it go. There's a practical takeaway that we can do here, and that is to create a habit of self-forgiveness for your financial errors and start moving forward with actionable steps. Because sitting there dwelling on it isn't going to do anything. Be a goldfish, move forward.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I like that.
Quote number 2. This one is a very short but sweet quote. It's one word.
Okay.
Believe.
Is that a show reference? Is that a show reference?
Yes, it's very big in the show.
Okay.
But that's all you need to know is it's believe. And the lesson really comes down to the simplicity of the power of belief in being able to achieve our goals, whether that be financial, spiritual, family, career. If we don't believe we can, we're right. We will not achieve it. You know, it was, I think Harrison Ford, he said, not Harrison Ford.
Henry Ford.
This guy, Henry Ford, he said, whether you believe you can or you believe you can't, you're right.
I was like, Indiana Jones?
Yeah, well, Han Solo once said.
Han Solo dropping bars over here. Whether you believe you can or whether you believe you can't, you are correct. Damn, that's... now I'm just going to remember that as Harrison Ford from now on. Screw Henry Ford. It's way better.
It's funny because I said it, and I was like, that's definitely not it. But it's we don't do the podcast scripted. We just hit it and see what happens.
Exactly. That's awesome. That's great. It's really funny. Okay. So believe. Number 2.
Believe in the power of achieving your goals. And the lesson there is self-belief is crucial when facing financial independence. Doubts and societal expectations are always going to creep in. But if you believe in the long-term goal, if you believe in the vision, that's going to help you get through those doubts, through those societal expectations of other people saying, hey, why are you staying home on Friday night? Like, you should be out with us partying and spending all your money. Like, that's what everyone else is doing. Put yourself in credit card debt. It's all well and good. Everyone else is doing it. So that belief is what's going to help you. I think that having that clear vision is what's going to help you stay to the path of financial independence, even when the external factors are challenging it every step of the way. Because I've been there where you feel like everything, all the slings and arrows are coming at you and your goals. And it's your belief in a better tomorrow that gets you through that.
Yeah, absolutely. And part of that kind of goes back to the goldfish thing as well. You know, having a short memory, right? You got to believe, and you can't let that doubt sink in, but also try and forget about the doubt as fast as you can. Okay? It's not serving you. It's usually not serving you.
Yeah. So a practical takeaway from the quote believe that I would probably tell people is maybe practice visualization, meditation, or just working on your mindset to really strengthen your belief in your journey to financial independence. But more than that, on your belief that you can grow. You know, it was Carol Dweck who talks about having a growth mindset and the importance of that. And the idea between people that have a fixed mindset that believe that my thoughts, my beliefs, who I am as a person, my habits, the things I'm good at, things I'm bad at are fixed. They're not malleable. I can't get better. I can't become a better public speaker. I can't work out in the gym. Those people go to where they are going to be and they stop. But people who have a growth mindset, people who believe in a better tomorrow, they're willing to know that when I hit a wall, that does not mean that I don't stop. It means I keep pushing that wall and I keep on trying to get better and better and better. There's a good quote that I really like is, You can't turn a pig into a racehorse, but you can make a really fast pig.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. That's true. That's true. I have yet to see any pig racehorses, but I have seen some very fast pigs.
So, quote number 3, talking on a challenge is a lot like riding a horse. If you're comfortable while doing it, you're probably doing it wrong. And what I get from this quote is growth oftentimes requires discomfort.
Mm.
And I would say that growth always requires discomfort. If you're growing and not having to put in any work, I don't know what kind of growth that is. It's going to be minuscule growth,
Yeah.
Imperceptible growth if you're not suffering or if there's not any discomfort.
100%, 1,000,000%, infinity%. If you're not feeling discomfort, that you're not growing. You're definitely not growing. Like I can go to the gym and curl the 1 pound weights. If your gym has that low of weights, 10 reps, nothing will change. Literally nothing will change for me in my body. Maybe you're 95 years old and 1 pound reps, that does all the work for you. You know, it's all about perspective. It's all about how your story's going. But yeah, what was it? Talking on a challenge. Say that one more time.
Yeah, it's a little weird, but it doesn't make sense unless you watch the show again.
Okay, I'll watch the show. You convinced me.
Yeah, but if you're enjoying the challenge, it's like riding a horse. If you're comfortable while doing it, you're probably doing it wrong.
Mm.
But to a financial independence standpoint, as we know, choosing financial independence, it involves hard decisions, like cutting your spending, investing, and planning for the long term. So if we are able to maybe remember this quote, we can remember to embrace the discomfort as a sign of progress in both our life and our finances. That discomfort, that pain, that concern, all that is the growth on the journey to where you want to go. So embrace the budgeting, embrace the sacrifice, embrace delaying gratification as a normal part of the financial independence process, as the process of becoming a better you. Because if it was easy, everyone would be doing it. And we don't want to be average.
That is not the truth. That is the truth right there. So that was number 3. Moving on to number 4.
Number 3.
Let's
number
do it.
4. Quote number 4. Doing the right thing is never the wrong thing.
I love it. Words I live my life by. Or I have a quote in my own head. It's very, very similar. Is you'll never be wrong doing the right thing. That's the quote I've always lived by. And very similar one right there. That's a good one.
Yep. And we can really see that making ethical choices builds lasting success. Yeah, there are people in the world that I'm sure we can count them all out, of people that screw people over, that do anything they possibly can to get ahead right now. And while we may look at them and be like, man, they're doing all this stuff that's wrong and they're getting ahead and that's just not fair, at some point it will catch up with them. Like, I don't believe in like a cosmic karma or anything like that, but even if it never catches up with them, that person's life must be hell just to be that person. So I don't know if they're going to have an afterlife, anything like that. I'm not going to even create wild conjecture on that. But I do know if you're the kind of person that is screwing other people over, that's talking crap behind people's back, that's doing all that stuff, your life right now is hell.
Yeah. It's so interesting. The more you evolve, the more you see how much more people are suffering than they let on. And I think that's what's so interesting for me, at least, about personal growth, is like the more you discover more about yourself, you're discovering more about everyone else as well.
Yep. Yeah. So again, the quote is, doing the right thing is never the wrong thing. And I think this really helps from a financial independence standpoint and having integrity with our finances, being an honest dealer, making sure that we're trying to avoid shortcuts and really think on the long term of win-win scenarios. Because there's a lot of people who try to get to financial independence by screwing everyone else over. So at least I get all of mine, but that's going to come at a different level of discomfort. Maybe you have the money. Yeah. But now you have people that hate you. And is that really worth it? I would argue not. So the importance of all this is the value-driven decisions in both your life and your finances, and sticking with the principles, even when shortcuts appear and seem like the way to go. Even though when those shortcuts, those little things they dangle in front of you, like just take me. It's so easy to just steal me, to do whatever you want. But if you do that, I truly believe it's going to lead to setbacks in the long term.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that kind of always stuck with me, I know you like Jordan Peterson a little bit. I like Jordan
Mhm.
Peterson a little bit. I was watching one of his lectures, and he said that in his time as a psychologist, right, and just his time in the world, he said that no one gets away with anything ever, not even once.
Yep.
And I think that's so interesting because oftentimes it's like, oh, these guys on Wall Street, they're ripping us off. Oh, these guys over here, the politician, they're ripping us XYZ, right? And it's like they'll have their time. Something, I'm not saying something bad will happen to them, but it all comes out. It always all comes out in the wash. So don't give it too much.
Nothing in this life is free.
Nope.
And even if it never happens karmically or that you don't see it,
Mhm.
every single day they're living with that discomfort. Because again, I always say it, the only thing that matters is how you feel about yourself when you're by yourself. And if you feel good about yourself, if you love the person you are, if you love the journey you're on, you're not the person trying to screw other people over. You're trying to help and grow other people, and you get to live in heaven in light while you're here on this earth, rather than
Mhm.
waiting for some divine intervention of feeling like I'm finally there. Or you can choose to screw people over. You can choose to do the wrong thing. And regardless of what happens in the afterlife, you're going to live in hell right now in your life. And I would much rather choose to live in the light, to be in a good place here, because I know I have this. I know for sure that I have this life. I don't know what else is beyond. And no one truly does. We all have beliefs, but I would rather focus on what I can control, which is the way I am every single day.
Day in and day
So,
out.
quote number 5. Success is not about the wins and the losses. It's about helping these young fellas be the best version of themselves. And what I gain from this is financial independence is more than just numbers. It's about quality of life. And oftentimes, in order to have a good quality of life, it's not about focusing on the numbers. It's about focusing on helping people along the way. And just like Ted says there, it's not about the wins and losses when it comes to the soccer game. It's about making sure that every single person on his team on the pitch, both on his team and on the other opponent's team, leaves a better person than they were and becomes the best version of who they are. And that should be all of our goals. And I think if we all go out there and set a goal of, I just want to help as many people as I can, even if you never hit the financial goals you want, you'll know that you lived a life of purpose.
100%.
And you'll know that you did the right thing. And you'll be able to go to bed at night knowing that you're doing the right thing.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Yeah, you only become more empowered by helping people empower themselves. Yeah.
Like true wealth is enjoying the journey and the self-growth, not reaching the quote-unquote magic number.
100%. I like that.
So I think the best life lesson we can do, or the parallel for finances, focus on enjoying each stage, developing your skills, and becoming a well-rounded person. The pursuit of financial independence is not just about security,
Mhm.
but it's also about freedom to invest in yourself and in others. The security is important, yes, but that freedom, that ability to help yourself, to help others, that's what I think it's really about.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, that leads to a beautiful life. It leads to a very beautiful life.
I agree. Now we have 2 more quotes, and then we'll finish off with our action steps. So, quote number 6: I promise you, there's something worse out there than being sad, and that's being alone and sad. Ain't no one in this room alone. And in the show, there's a part where they lose the big game, and everyone's sad, and Ted goes out there to the team, and all their heads are down, and he gives that quote: I promise there's something worse in this life than being sad, and that's being alone and sad. And ain't no one in this room alone. And that's the nice thing. That's the reason we tell so many people, bring people along on this journey to financial independence, because there's going to be setbacks. And when there are those setbacks, when you're alone and you're sad, that's when you give up. But if you're around a bunch of other people that are alone and sad, you have each other to help each other up and to say, we can keep on doing this. We have to believe, we have to keep moving forward. We have to build a strong network on our journey of financial independence, because there is no self-made men. There are no self-made women. If you're alive today, it's because someone cared for you at some point. You might have had the worst freaking life in the world. If you're listening to this podcast, if you have earphones, if you're hearing this, there's someone out there who has it worse than you. I freaking guarantee it. But even if you had the worst life in the world, someone at some point took care of you, because no one comes out of their mother and just decides, like, at this point, I'm going to be self-sufficient. Someone has to care for you. or you don't make it.
Percent. I love that. You know, I feel like I'm not adding a whole bunch to today's episode, but I'll tell you what, I'm getting a lot from today's episode, and I hope that you guys are as well. If you guys are, please give us a follow, give us a like, share with a friend. Chris has been saying that, you know, it's so much better to go on this journey with someone, and I couldn't agree more, right? And he said something that I thought was kind of interesting, and you tied it into the show about being alone, right? And having that network of people to help prop you up when you do end up falling back, falling behind. I think it's necessary, and not just in finance, right? I'm not talking about like, oh, hey, like I need an extra $20 bill, right? I'm out of money. It's like, no, not like that, not in that way, right? More of in a way like I just feel lost, and I just need to express my thoughts, and I need an objective third party. You know, that's why it's so important to build that network so you can empty your brain, give it out, and then put it back in, you know? And I find that I do that a lot. And Chris, you mentioned something last podcast that I was so interesting. It was like an app that you say you kind of record your thoughts and then you kind of just listen back to them. I love that idea. And you did the same thing and then take the transcripts, throw it in ChatGPT and kind of discuss it there. And I love that. I love that a lot. But that's why we say, right? Go tell a friend about today's episode. Share them with share the podcast with them, because it's just so much better going with a friend.
Yeah.
If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go in a group.
Yeah, because oftentimes what I found, at least when I was on my path to financial independence, is the journey was really, really isolating because the people around me didn't understand what I was doing. They didn't understand my goals. They didn't understand the vision that I had. They thought I was an idiot. And, you know, that's the reason that we kind of started this podcast was we're trying to make a community because it's essential for staying motivated. Because like we say a lot, like financial independence it's not a solo journey. Like even me who like kind of did it quote unquote solo, like I wasn't solo. I had my best friend to talk to about it. Like, and he was on his journey and I had my wife to talk to about it. I had a community of people that I listened to on the internet. And that's exactly what we do here at the Fi Guys is create that community because we need to connect with other like-minded people and have that support system to help us through those times. And even if you don't have that community physically with you, you are the aggregate of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So right here, right now, listening to this podcast, there are 2 people in your life for 2 hours a week that you can listen to who are part of your community, who are there, who see you and want what's best for you. But I would also challenge you to go out and find or continue to build a community around you of people who share your financial goals, whether that be through local meetups, online communities, your friends and your family. You want people that you can share your financial aspirations with, your financial setbacks, your challenges, your achievements, in order to help you stay motivated and for you to be able to motivate them back.
100%. It's all about that beautiful feedback loop. It's all about the feedback loop.
With that, we'll move on to our 7th and final quote from Mr. Ted Lasso. Be curious, not judgmental.
I like that. I like that. There's no power in being judgmental. It's not a good look. It's never a good look. And I would agree. Yeah, be curious is, yeah, I love it. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, approaching financial growth with curiosity and openness, just in being in that curiosity allows you to be more flexible. It allows you to try to make new discoveries and to grow in personal finance. Because if you have that mindset of, I'm just going to judge everything because nothing's right for me. Yeah, you're right. You're never going to find something new because you're not being curious anymore. You're shutting everything else down. Anytime someone brings you a new idea or a new thought or a new way of doing something, if you're just judging it and saying, no, that's not right, I'm not going to do that, it's going to hinder your progress so much. And I think the worst thing about the judgment that is a little bit outside of the scope of the quote, it's not just judging other things that are external to you, but also the self-judgment of I can't change, the self-judgment of I screwed up, the self-judgment of all these things. That's going to set you back far more than being judgmental of things external to you. So be curious. Why am I the way that I am? Is there a way to be a better version of me? Do I like who I am? And be curious with yourself, not judgmental, because that's how we make progress. is by finding, why am I the way that I am? What stories am I telling myself? And can I start to change those stories and rewrite them? Put the backpack down. It's filled with bricks and I can't keep walking. I need to put it down, use those bricks to make a new freaking road for other people to make it past.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And was that our final one?
Before we get into that, I do want to kind of tie it back a little bit more just to make sure that our audience really understands. So the financial parallel of this quote, be curious, not judgmental. I think that curiosity leads to learning new skills, maybe exploring alternative income streams, being open to feedback on how you can be better financially. Because financial independence, it requires curiosity about money, managing the money, rather than judging about your past financial decisions. So I would challenge all of our listeners and you, Dominic, and everyone to cultivate the habit of asking questions and exploring different financial perspectives without attaching judgment to those. This could include reading books, attending seminars, listening to podcasts, listening to whatever it is on your journey to gain fresh ideas. Because the only way that we grow is by listening to competing ideas. And yes, you might feel an aversion when you hear someone saying something different than what you believe. But the only reason you feel that aversion is because you're not 100% sure in your belief. And that's why it's scary to you. But if you're not 100% sure, then what makes you think that you're right?
Amen to that. Amen to that indeed. I love that. That was awesome.
So let's get on to our actionable step, because this was a very entertaining episode. I enjoyed doing it, but entertainment without action or information without action is just entertainment. So our action step this week is a really fun one. And that is, I want you to get Apple TV just for a month to check it out. So if you do get Apple TV, be sure to cancel it after you're done watching, unless you're like, it's really adding value to your life. Or you can always just stream the highlights on YouTube. But get Apple TV. Oftentimes they give you a free month. Put in a credit card, put in a debit card, put in a credit card, get the points for it. Watch the show. You have it's the Christmas season. You know, you're chilling at home. Maybe you're not working right now. When you're off, watch the show, have some fun. It's actually a pretty quick show to watch. I think it's 24 hours worth of viewing. You can probably get that done pretty quickly if you just really binge it, which I guarantee if you start watching it, you'll definitely binge it. And make sure to cancel that Apple TV, but watch the show. Hopefully you get the same value out of it, because it's changed my life so much for the better, and got me through some really, really rough times. So this show coming back for season 4, I'm ecstatic. I'm very excited that it hopefully will drop in 2025. I guess we'll see.
I love it. Yeah. Fingers crossed it's great. I'm sure it will be. They're in good hands over there. Any final thoughts on this one, Chris? I know you love the show. I still need to watch it. I can't guarantee I'll binge it by Friday, but I will definitely look into that Apple TV Plus subscription and see what I can conjure up as far as that. Was there a kind of a favorite? I don't want to. I might. You know what? My question. I'm gonna save it for Friday. I'm actually gonna save it for Friday. I was gonna do a little recap on like which one was your favorite quote, but maybe we'll just save that for Friday then.
Cool. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us. We hope you gained some value out of today's episode. I know it's a little bit different than what we normally do, but this is the holiday season. I really wanted to leave it on a really positive note, because I know that the holiday season for many, myself included, can be a hard time. You know, I've lost people during the holiday seasons, and being in these times kind of reminds me of that. So if we can do anything to be positive, to remind people that to look on the good side, that's what I want to do with this podcast today, and show you that the journey to financial independence, you are not alone. We're here alongside you. There are so many people that are there rooting for you. And if you don't have that, know that we're here and start going out there to build it. So guys, we'll see you on 5 Friday Feedback. Hope you continue to enjoy your holiday season. And yeah, later guys.
Peace.
This video podcast is sponsored by Monzon Wealth. The content in this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered financial advice. We do not endorse specific products or services. Past performance does not guarantee future results. The opinions expressed are those of the host and guests, not the podcast sponsor.
It is crucial to consult with a qualified financial advisor or professional who can provide advice tailored to your specific needs before making any financial decisions, investments, or taking any other actions. If you are seeking specified help, you can reach out to Chris at monzonwealth.com.